World of Warcraft has had many redesigns in its lifetime, and all of them have been done to fix various issues within the game itself. Most notably, the redesign of questing we had in Cataclysm, and then at the start of Shadowlands. These redesigns, however, have created invisible problems. These problems aren't visible because they cannot be seen, rather they are very hard to see without thousands of hours of play data, and even then, the natural feedback you'd get would not necessarily be helpful, since a new player might not even understand why they dislike something, they only know that they do. Something just feels off, sort of like that feeling when you accidentally put on your underwear wrong. You don't quite know why, but your balls just don't seem to be in the right place today. It's like your balls are literally fighting you. You won't know what the issue is until you take off your pants to realize just how big of a moron you've just been. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Akalon, and today we're diving into World of Warcraft, a failure in design. Why does the world feel empty? Why is it that players feel disconnected so often from the game? All this and more will be explored in much more detail in the coming video. Very quick shout out to all of the patrons and the Twitch subs of the channel. Thanks to you, this channel keeps growing. For more ways to support the channel, please wait until the end of the video. Slap a like on the video, sit back, and let's jump into it. New players are alien to the world that you create until they reach a level of knowledge about the game and its culture. So new players will almost always need some level of handholding to learn from others until they feel ready to accept the terms and conditions of the world that they are now a part of. To give new players a full experience of at least a single expansion, World of Warcraft itself has sequestered new players in their own little bubble where the rules of social decorum and social interaction aren't explained or learnt until much later in the game. Part of this failure comes from a very direct, self-imposed decision from Blizzard to have every expansion tell its own story with the old world completely forgotten. This means that new players aren't part of the new world, and old players have already forgotten the old world. So new players rarely, if ever, mix with old players, save for those who level a new character, and even then, it must come with the hope that old players chose the exact same expansion as most of the new players. I know what you're thinking. All of you are sitting there going, Akalon, you are so big brain. This is exactly the problem. No, I'm lying. I know most of you are sitting there going, Akalon, come on. What is the issue? New players are simply given the opportunity to play with other new players, and there's nothing wrong with that. What could possibly go wrong? Well, my little ray of sunshine.
You are my sunshine.
Let me explain. A loss of shared space. You might think, well, Akalon, you silly goose, sure this might have some effect on new players, but surely this won't really affect the older players, since all of us are playing in the newest content, and therefore our shared world is intact, and we'll get to that little issue in a bit. First, imagine you arrived in a brand new city. You just moved in. However, the rules in this new city state that you may not go to the popular nightclubs or restaurants, and you may only interact with other newcomers until such time that you settle in. Your apartment is in a building that was specifically made for new people, and therefore you get zero interaction with anyone from the city. Everyone around you is lost and trying to find their own place in this new world. Soon the city starts feeling empty. You heard great stories of the style of the citizens in the city, the cars they drive and the houses they live in. You've heard stories of the dragons they slay on weekends and the massive war games that take place with 40 people fighting a different group for dominance. Sadly, you do not see that. Instead, you see a bunch of people walking around with rags, looking up at the skyscrapers. No one seems to know what they are doing, and the dragons are there, but no one seems to want to help you kill them. This would be a terrible experience. Part of the excitement of moving to a new city is to discover all the different people, the cultures, the city hallmarks, and the new friends. You will interact with thousands of people every day, and in a way, the people themselves are content that you get to consume on a daily or even sometimes hourly basis. Playing a new game, especially an MMO, is very much like this. We heard these incredible tales of the amazing adventures we will get to go on, all the amazing battles and dungeons, the incredible armors and mounts that exist in this world. Sadly, in World of Warcraft design, As a new player, you will only really experience that if you can bite your tongue, grit your teeth, and survive the initial leveling experience. A new player in World of Warcraft will never interact with the old players until much later. This can easily lead to a new player opting out of the game before they even have given the game a fair chance. This is something Final Fantasy solved with their duty roulette. You see, the duty roulette is used by new and old players to gain valuable resources. Maybe you just want to level a new job. These are the classes in Final Fantasy, by the way. Or maybe you just want the Grand Company seals from them. Either way, even veterans will likely run these dungeons every single day, and the duty roulette chooses from every dungeon ever introduced to the game. So new and old players are often placed in the same space, and as a new player you get to stand in awe at just how magnificent you will one day look in this game if you only stick with it. The world design of Final Fantasy also lends itself to older players often visiting and revisiting the old world, since most things in Final Fantasy are kept relevant, be it to grind world bosses or to just get other materials. The old world is kept breathing as a result of the design decisions taken very early on. Now, veterans, on to you. I did promise that I would get to you, didn't I? For older players, this issue isn't really alleviated. You see, for a series of reasons I am yet to understand, could be that I'm not smart enough, World of Warcraft have been designed to be a menu clicker. Shared spaces have been removed from the game and replaced with a simple button to click to go into an instance version of the world to obtain power that can be used to gain access to even more difficult menu clickers. So the shared world, as a result, becomes nearly empty. This is an all too familiar sight. Remember how amazing it was when the new expansion just came out, everyone out and about killing monsters and questing, only to come back a few months into the expansion and be surprised if you even spot another player. Slowly but surely, shared spaces were replaced. There used to be very specific areas where PvPers would hang out to fight each other and to hone their skills. You used to need to go out in the world to gather items and reagents to ensure you are ready for tonight's raid. Some of this loss is just new to the nature of the modern player base. It's easier to just go to the auction house now and buy all the reagents than to farm it, since bots farm this stuff daily and often corner the market with cheap options and a limitless supply. Some fault, however, does lie with the developers here. With the constant push for more accessibility, where developers would constantly employ changes that make it easier for players to get into content most of the time at the expense of core MMO mechanics that have left many of the shared spaces completely empty. Don't get me wrong though, accessibility isn't a bad thing per se. In the creation of any service, there is a golden rule. The easier you make it for people to join your service, the more people will join. So this is a great change to allow more people access to certain services that previously would have been but a pipe dream. Think back to the days of attunements in TBC. While yes, it made raiding feel very exclusive, it sadly made raiding feel very exclusive, to the point where most players simply had no chance or even desire to get into raiding. Unlike removing attunements from the game, many of these changes, however, weren't always well thought out. Far too often these changes would destroy the shared spaces of the players and remove from the social contract inherent in any MMO. If players are also viewed as a type of content, then the lack of shared spaces means that a whole lot of potential free content goes out the window, and your game just slightly feels off. I fear this is where World of Warcraft is now. It's not so much that you can choose to play solo in World of Warcraft, which by the way is a perfectly acceptable way to play an MMO. The loner is after all a hero archetype. See Batman or Lone Ranger, or even just the guy sitting in the corner shop, drinking his coffee and not interacting with the world. Sadly, in World of Warcraft, playing solo is now the meta. You need to choose to play with other players, most of the time having to go out of your way to find a group of people to play with. This goes directly against the MMO genre, where playing with other players and being part of a giant, massively open world society is core to the very design. I'm aware that most of you did not come here only to listen to the bad things in World of Warcraft, so Let's see if this can be fixed. What can we do? See, at this point, the fix in many ways might be even harder than the problem, since as a result of these changes, new player promises have been introduced into the game. Some players now expect never to have to play with others. They expect to be able to get things easy with little to no work being required to get it. They expect a slot machine where you press a button and purple treasure falls out of it. That would be nice. Maybe not purple. Let's make it gold. So either way, someone somewhere is going to get very angry, but this is the nature of life. Sometimes to do something good, you must be willing to upset someone. This doesn't, however, need to be difficult. It starts with something as simple as a capital city in the next expansion where all players are funneled into this one city, and the space itself offers all the amenities that one would expect from a city. A shared space where players feel like they can meet others with similar goals and similar interests, and where players can once again become part of the core concepts within the MMO we call World of Warcraft. You design a world where players need to be out in the world, maybe not even for something big, but where being out in the world is required in order to get ready for your various activities. You could make certain items soulbound, so players will need to farm them in order to make their preparations for a raid, or maybe bring back core reagents like Warlock Soul Shards, which will require Warlocks to farm up shards in order to be raid ready. By the way, I'm not saying that these examples are perfect or that they should be added. I am very sure that the people who work on World of Warcraft are far smarter than me.
Yes, but actually no.
To be fair, I am a fat fuck sitting in my bedroom talking about video games all day, so please, these are just my examples. Who knows? Do you have an example of something they could do that would get people out into the world? Let me know in the comment section down below. Sadly though, these are the low-hanging fruits. The much harder part of this is the incorporation of new players into the social fabric of World of Warcraft. I fear for this an entire redesign of the old world would need to take place. All dungeons and raids would need to again become something max level players need to do, and then match them with low level players. Perhaps borrow from Final Fantasy XIV here. Find ways of making the old outer world relevant again, so max level players have a reason to go there, a reason to interact with the low level players, so low level players can see what it is that they are working towards. I genuinely do not have a good answer to this, believe me. Perhaps if I was smarter, I could think of something. The truth is that these are hard problems to solve, and I don't think that the solution is going to come from a single person. Even though I might count for 3, I still only have one brain. No, I think this is a solution that is requiring or will require countless people. Sort of a collective fix, if you will, to the World of Warcraft problem. So in conclusion, I get it. Many of you must have sat there and thought, Akko, you're a moron. Why does any of this matter? The game is just fine, and I do not want it to change. Change, sadly, Little Cupcake, is the one constant in this world. And 10 years ago, I would have agreed. WoW doesn't need to change. Where else are people going to go? But now with Final Fantasy XIV and ESO growing in popularity, if World of Warcraft doesn't change and adapt, it will soon find itself in a dead MMO space where the game itself becomes unplayable due to a lack of players to actually play the game. You see, WoW allowed itself to fall behind. Where once it was the MMO everyone else wanted to beat, everyone aspired to be it. It is now the MMO chasing the tail end of the spectrum, and for a while, it will still have millions of players, but even those players will eventually move on and go play something new. For this reason and this reason alone, it is time WoW woke up and realized it is no longer the golden standard, but it can be once more. It has all the best elements to one day be the greatest MMO on the market again, and I am simply doing my small part in trying to make that future a reality. Much like how our patrons do their part in making my dreams a reality, I want to thank all the patrons, Twitch subs, and YouTube channel members for making this video and videos like this one possible. If you want exclusive behind the scenes content as well as an awesome weekly podcast, click the link in the description down below and join Patreon today. Or come watch us live every Tuesday to Friday on Twitch, link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please remember to hit that like button and the sub button. And as always, be kind to each other, be good to each other, and I will see all of you in the next one. Peace. If you only stick with it. Oh, let's retake that. Also lends itself to all older players, often revisiting. No, let's redo that. Some of this loss is just due to the nature of the modern player base. So this is a great change to allow more people. A fat fuck sitting in his bedroom and talks about video games all day. I'm gonna redo that one, Alex. You see, WoW allowed itself to fall behind. It is now the MMO chasing the tail end of the spectrum. No, I'm gonna redo that one. You see, WoW itself allowed it to fall... Fuck! Okay, redo. Much like what our patrons do, much like how... I'll redo that one, fuck me.